Even a white person that's coming out the ghetto that's going to get with a white middle class or a white upper middle class girl, there's that same culture clash. Never mind the fact that they're both the same race, right? But they're not the same class. Obviously, interracial dynamics, there's a bit of a disconnect, right? In terms of cultural. Now, I grew up in a neighborhood that is predominantly white. I don't live in Africa. You got a lot of black Americans, basketball Americans, who seek out a white girl. Like their community, their whole surrounding, their whole network is all black people, but for some reason, they go out and seek out a white girl. That, in my opinion, is problematic. For these men that are black Americans, basketball Americans, for these men that say they don't like black girls, and you'll hear a lot of these men say that, to say that you don't like black girls, like, what does that mean about how you see your mother? So there's some sort of psychological issue there that I won't go into because I don't know much about that. But I could say there's definitely a problem there. That's logical. That if you're actively seeking outside your race, and this is from the women's perspective as well, white girls that only like black guys, there's something wrong with you. You don't like your father. You don't respect your father to a certain extent. There's something there with the relationship with your father where you don't see yourself with a man that represents the family dynamic that you had growing up, right? So there's a bit of a daddy issue thing going on there, mama issue with the black men, right? So now, that being said, can it happen that it'll work? Absolutely, right? You could have a black man find a white woman and it could be true love and it could be great. But there are a lot of issues that people overlook and they don't consider, right? So me having grown up around predominantly white people, I know, number one, my culture is more on par because you hear my dialect, you hear how I speak. I've been educated. I've been to school, right? I'm not coming out the ghetto, right? Talking like some Ebonics and getting with some college white chick where it's like, what exactly do you guys have in common that you're getting together, right? Other than a fetishized type of relationship, right? So for me to get with a white girl is less of a culture shock just because I'm more in the culture of what they represent. I'm more jive with their culture than someone who's coming out the ghetto, right? Even a white person that's coming out the ghetto that's going to get with a white middle class or a white upper middle class girl, there's that same culture clash. Never mind the fact that they're both the same race, right? But they're not the same class or the same culture because one coming out the hood, the other one is coming from a more higher society, right? So why I say black men need to be careful, right? So black men, let's say you're coming out the hood or whatever. Let's say you're not coming out the hood. So you got a white girl, right? I'll give you example from my experience. I like to do that because it makes it, you understand where I'm coming from, where I come to these conclusions. So I've dealt with white women before. And from my experience, I know that a lot of the time, white women, when they're around black men, they trying to do the most.
Get your leg in the car.
You feel some type of way because my leg ain't in the car?
What's your current address right now? Where are you staying?
Don't worry about all that.
Stay in the blue box.
No, hold on.
Stay in the blue box.
You want to taste me?
No.
Do it.
Stay in the blue box.
I like it kinky.
They trying to like show out. They trying to show and prove. They trying to like show how cool they are. How they gang. They about it, right? So they might go above and beyond to act hard. You might be in a club. They might be mouthy. They might be loud. They might be trying to like portray something, I don't know, they're trying to show out, right? And I've had this happen to me in the past where like I'll be out with a girl and she'll try to act hard or whatever, and it could put you in a situation that could escalate, could get violent, and you don't need to be in that situation. And these things can be avoided by bringing this stuff out from the jump, from the get-go. Now, this is a very interesting situation. I've had times where, and it was a woman, at the time a girl that I really cared about. I actually really liked this girl. It didn't work out in the end because I kind of fumbled the bag a bit. I was young, so I didn't really deal with her in the correct way, and whatever, we grew apart, it didn't work out. But this girl, we used to hang out all the time, right? And whatever, we'd be chilling. And one day, she's in my car, and we're chilling, we're driving around, we're having a grand old time. She pulls out a bag of snow, of the nasal variety of snow. And I'm driving, I just look, and I'm like, yo, what is that? Because I wasn't doing I wasn't doing none of that stuff, right? I don't do that. So I look at her and I'm like, what is that? Not what is that, like I didn't know what it was. I'm like, yo, why do you have that? And she's like, oh, just a little bit of. And I'm just like, yo, get that out of my whip. Get that out of my whip. Get that out of my car. Like, I don't want that in here, Because at the time we were chilling, we were smoking, and any good attorney will tell you, lawyers know, you don't break the law when you're breaking the law. So for me to be running around and this was before this stuff was legal, right? Because a lot of places have legalized the cannabis. So I'm like, yo, this is how it happens. This is how nibbas be getting locked away for like 10 years and all kinds of things. It's like you get pulled over, oh, the car smells, now there's probable cause, now there's a freaking baggie of freaking nasal snow. And it's like, what do you think? Whose possession that's gonna end up in? Whose possession? First of all, the driver, it's your responsibility. It's your they call it constructive possession. So anything within your vicinity, within your vehicle, you're in charge of. You're on the hook for. You're responsible for. So this cute little white girl who also, well, I won't go into the who she was, but considering who she was, like, long story short, if the police would have pulled me over and found that, I'm gone. It's OV. Like, it's up. Like, my life is done. My life is done. And all you would see on the news is, oh, this nigga got pulled over and he had some illicit substances in the car and he gone. That nigga gone. Never to be seen or heard from again. And, you would have had my mom get on and be like, yo, he was a good boy. Would be the same song and dance, right? I'm not saying that all these guys that get booked are innocent. Not by a long shot. A lot of y'all deserve to be locked up. But there are a lot of men that I'm sure got the short end of the stick and got in situations they didn't need to be in, right? Just because of a woman. And that aspect has nothing to do with race per se. Any woman will get a softer interaction with police, but especially the dynamic of having a white woman in your passenger seat and there are illicit substances found. The police are not going to throw the book at some little 5'1", 95-pound chick, It's just logic. Like, I'm not crazy. Police have never mistreated me. I've always been dealt with very fairly by police, but at the end of the day, come on, let's be honest, guys. Anyone, y'all know what would happen. So when I tell black men that they gotta be careful, these are the types of things you gotta be careful with. That were women trying to show out and trying to prove themselves for whatever reason, for what they see in movies or whatever, they're trying to act hard. But there's also the aspect overall of how people see you in public in general. The perception. And I understand, like, oh yeah, a lot of people will say, like, oh, you can't worry about what people think about you. Everybody worries about what others think about them. If they didn't, these platforms would be bankrupt. Platforms like Facebook, platforms like Instagram, where basically their business model is show your lifestyle off. If people really did not care about what others thought about them, these platforms would be bankrupt. So don't come at me and tell me, oh, you shouldn't care about what people think. That's great. That's fine and dandy on paper. But in reality, people care about what others think. So when you're looking at the dynamic of a white woman with a black guy, right? People look at you a certain way. And you have to be prepared for that. You can't be running through life, oh, bliss, pretending that these things are not issues. You can't pretend, like you see this a lot with a lot of communities where they're like, oh, my truth, and like they're trying to like lead with that, and like everyone should just lock step right away and fall into play with their ideologies. It doesn't work like that. People have their own prejudices. They're not going away. This is how people think. So when people see you guys in public, you got to understand that people are going to perceive you a certain way. So you got to be ready for that. This is something that you can discuss, or I should say you should be discussing with your woman. If you're with a white woman, you should be having these conversations from the jump. You know, a lot of these men, they're just like, it's fetishized on both sides. The women and the men fetishizing their partner of the of another race. So they don't even get into that relationship building, or they don't even get into that real deep stuff that will help the relationship grow. Culture and class. So a lot of these statistics are coming out of men that have no business with the white girls that they're with, because they are from ghetto society and the white girl is from a higher class. So there's a clash in culture, there's a clash in their classes, and there's a family clash as well, because the two families, the two in-laws, they don't relate. So when you got the couple going over to one in-law or the other, there's a culture clash, there's a culture shock. So most of the statistics are coming out of relationships like that, right? So that's why I'm saying it's not to say that a black man and a white woman can't work, but you guys should be generally from the same culture. You guys have to have these relationship building discussions beforehand, from the jump. Don't just start smashing and getting all goo goo gaga, and like the black dude's like, oh look, I got this white dime, look at this blonde, and the girl's like, yeah, I got this black stud BBC. Like, once you're at that level, you're cooked. It's done. You got to get this stuff out in the forefront. You got to talk about this stuff. If you guys converse and come to a level-headed understanding that, listen, people are going to view us a certain way, blah, 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 this and that. If that stuff's out the way, you guys are going to flourish. You guys are going to do great. In general, couples don't have enough conversations. They're not open enough. Everyone's just trying to smash, and no one's trying to talk things out and actually progress in relationships. And I don't know, y'all could do what you want. I don't know how I'm feeling to move, but again, like I said, I say this stuff all the time. Like, you guys, if something's been working for you, go ahead. But if it has not, you know, they say the definition of insanity is repeating the same behavior and expecting different results. So if something has not been working for you, you need to adjust. You need to do something different to get a different outcome. So that's all I'm trying to say. That's why I'm trying to tell black men, look, there's nothing wrong with going for white girls, but make sure you know the facts. Make sure you understand what is the psychology. You know, if you didn't grow up around white people, think about it. Why are you going for a white girl? Have you been conditioned from, it could be pornography, it could be movies in general, could be ads. You see a lot of ads now pushing interracial relationships. See a lot of stuff on television, music industry. So you gotta be honest with yourself too, you know, like, be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, be honest with the girl, and you guys are gonna thrive, you guys are gonna do great, right? So again, boys, don't become passport bros. Passport bros are all up in my comments. They blowing up the comments. Go ahead, blow up the comments. Don't become a passport bro. Don't be pretending that you and some white girl from the hills are gonna jive when you're from the ghetto. Like, don't lie to yourself. That being said, I wish you guys all the best in your love and your relationships, but just, you gotta have a head on your shoulders. You gotta be smart. You gotta understand the dynamics so that you don't end up in jail, and so that you don't end up with a baby moms that don't talk to you, or some other stupidity, some other ratchet type of situation. Okay? This can all be avoided. Be smart, boys.